Welcome to the SCARS Institute, audio brief podcast, created by the certified professionals at the SCARS Institute. This podcast uses AI to help you learn and better understand about criminal artificial intelligence, scams and fraud and scammers. We hope it helps you learn to be safe online.
So, subliminal messaging. Gotta admit, when you sent this research in, I was like, really? Is this still a thing? Like, we've all heard the stories about movie theaters and hidden messages, right? But turns out that's a total myth. But then I started reading your research, and scammers using this, okay, that's a whole different level of creepy.
It definitely gets your attention, that's for sure.
It does. So, to help us dig into all of this, we've got an expert in experts' relevant field, example, cybersecurity, human psychology, etc., with us today.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here to talk about this.
So the SCARS Institute, they're calling this a new frontier in cybercrime, which, okay, scammers are always going to scam, right? But what are we even talking about here? How are they using this subliminal stuff? Are they like, I don't know, hiding images in other images or something?
It's actually way sneakier than that. We're talking about using AI now. Programs like ControlNet or Stable Diffusion.
I've heard of those.
Right. And they're surprisingly easy to use. The scary part is even someone with just basic AI skills could use these tools to create images or videos that have these hidden messages embedded in them.
And the scammers are specifically going after people who are already vulnerable to scams.
That's a huge concern the SCARS Institute has. Think about romance scams. Someone's already feeling lonely, maybe a little desperate for connection. Now imagine a scammer subtly tweaking a photo, just slightly emphasizing certain features, the eyes, a smile, things we naturally associate with trust.
So they're not just trying to make someone look more attractive, they're making them seem more trustworthy.
Exactly, and that's just one example. The SCARS Institute says this could be used in all kinds of scams, investment schemes, for example. Imagine promotional materials that look totally legit at first glance, but hidden within those images are messages designed to trigger that impulse to act now.
So you don't even have time to stop and think, is this for real? You're already clicking that invest button.
You got it. Preying on those gut reactions, bypassing your rational mind entirely.
See, this is what I mean about creepy. But this is all theoretical, right? Or are there actual cases of scammers using this subliminal stuff?
That's the tricky part. The SCARS Institute says the science behind all of this is still evolving. We don't fully understand the long-term impact of this kind of manipulation yet.
Hold on. So you're saying we've got scammers potentially using readily available AI tools to exploit a psychological phenomenon that we don't even fully understand yet.
It's a lot to process.
It really is. Okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's back up a bit. How does subliminal messaging even work? You keep saying subconscious, but what's actually happening in the brain when we're exposed to these messages?
Okay, so think of it this way. Your brain is constantly bombarded with information, right? Sights, sounds, smells. You can't possibly pay attention to everything at once.
Sure.
So your subconscious mind, it's like it's working in the background, picking up on all those subtle cues, those things you're not even consciously aware of.
And those cues, those messages, they can still...
That's the thing. Even though you're not consciously aware of them, those messages can still influence your thoughts, your feelings, even your behavior.
Even if I don't remember seeing something, it could still be messing with my head.
It's kind of wild, right?
Kind of terrifying, if you ask me. Like, at least if I saw a message flash on the screen for a split second, I'd know something was up, even if I didn't catch what it said.
Yeah.
But if it's so subtle that I don't even realize I'm seeing it.
That's where it gets really unsettling. And honestly, knowing that this is even a possibility is a huge step in the right direction.
Okay, so how do we protect ourselves from something we can't even see coming?
That's the million-dollar question, and that's where we're going to dig into the SCARS Institute's recommendations, because they've actually got some very practical advice, starting with awareness. Just knowing that this kind of manipulation is even possible. That's a huge step.
Okay, sure, awareness. But how do you become aware of something you might not even notice in the first place? That feels kind of impossible.
It does, right? The SCARS Institute really stresses this idea of limiting engagement with content that could be risky. Be cautious about images, videos, links, especially if they're unsolicited or just seem a little off.
So trust your gut.
Yeah, to an extent. But also remember, scammers prey on our emotions, those gut reactions. If something seems too good to be true, well, you know the rest.
Right, too good to be true probably is. But how do we balance that with not becoming completely jaded and distrustful of everything we see online.
That's where technology comes in. It's like a double-edged sword, right? AI might be used to create these messages, but can also be used to fight back.
Like those AI art detectors people are using now.
Exactly. Think of it as your digital shield. Anti-phishing software is getting better all the time, flagging suspicious links and emails. And yeah, there are even some AI tools that can analyze images and videos for this kind of subliminal content.
Is a digital arms race.
Kind of, yeah. We're trying to stay one step ahead, using their tools against them.
I like it. But what about our own instincts? Can we do anything to make ourselves less vulnerable on a psychological level?
Absolutely. The SCARS Institute talks about emotional resilience. Think of it as your internal firewall.
Ooh, internal firewall. I like that. How do we build one of those?
It's about learning to manage your emotions, especially in situations where you might be more susceptible to this kind of manipulation. Scammers, they want you to act impulsively without thinking.
Right, so they can get you before you have time to realize what's happening.
Exactly. So building that emotional resilience means hitting the pause button. Take a breath, assess the situation logically before you make any decisions, especially when it comes to, say, online relationships or investment opportunities.
Don't let your emotions cloud your judgment.
Exactly. Ask yourself, why am I feeling pressured right now? Is this person really who they say they are? It's about giving your rational mind time to catch up.
This is starting to sound like good life advice in general, not just for avoiding scams.
It totally is. Emotional resilience is valuable no matter what.
Yeah.
But it's especially important online, where we're constantly bombarded with information and opportunities, and not all of them are on the up and up.
Okay, so to recap, awareness, limiting engagement, using technology to our advantage, and building that emotional resilience.
Yeah.
Did I get it all?
You got it. And I think the key takeaway here is that these recommendations, they're not just about subliminal messaging. It's about developing a healthy skepticism about what we see online, being proactive about our own safety.
Because let's be real, the scammers are always going to be out there trying to find new ways to, scam us.
It's true, but the more we know about their tactics, the better equipped we are to spot them.
Knowledge is power.
100%.
Okay, so we've talked about how to protect ourselves. But what about the bigger picture here? The ethics of all of this. Even if these subliminal messages aren't always malicious, the idea that someone could be messing with our heads without us knowing, that's kind of terrifying.
It is a bit of a mind warp, isn't it?
It is. And it's not just about subliminal messaging, right? It's about all the ways technology can be used to manipulate us, often without our knowledge or consent.
It's a slippery slope.
It really is. And it feels like it's only going to get more complicated as AI gets more sophisticated.
It is. It really is a tough question. Where do we draw the line?
Right, because we don't want to stifle creativity or innovation. Like you said, these tools, they can be used for good, too.
Absolutely.
But we also don't want to just unleash them on the world with no guardrails, no thought about the potential consequences.
The SCARS Institute actually talks about this. They're urging policymakers and tech companies to actually work together on this, like maybe establishing some ethical guidelines for using this technology.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you even begin to regulate something like this?
It's tough for sure. One idea they propose is actually kind of interesting. They call it digital nutrition labels.
Like for food?
Exactly.
So wait, you're saying there'd be a label on like a website or a video that says, warning, this content may contain traces of subliminal messaging.
Something like that. I know it sounds a little out there, but think about it.
It's giving me a good chuckle, I'll say that.
But honestly, I think it's a brilliant idea.
Okay, yeah. The more I think about it, the more I like it. Gives you that heads up.
Right, because at the end of the day, we have a right to know what we're consuming, whether it's food or information.
Digital nutrition labels. Okay, SCARS Institute, I'm adding that to my list of brilliant ideas.
Right.
This has been, wow, really eye-opening. I have to say, when we started this deep dive, I was a little bit, subliminal messaging. Really.
Mm-hmm.
But now, I'm looking at everything online with a much more critical eye.
That's fantastic to hear.
So, for our listener out there who sent us this research, thank you. You've given us, and I hope everyone listening, a lot to think about. And remember, knowledge is power. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
If you have been victimized by a scam, the SCARS Institute can help you. To begin, visit scamvictimsupport.org. If you are ready to join a SCARS Institute support and recovery group, visit support.againstscams.org. to enroll in the SCARS Institute Scam Survivors School's next class. Visit scarseducation.org. All SCARS Institute Victim Survivors services are completely free. We understand what you have gone through, and we can help. Contact the SCARS Institute today.